Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open in Worcester, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller, alongside a man who needs no introduction, Reid Duke.
Hey Nick.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, having fun.
Now, I saw you come into the building today, and I was like, all right, we're going to have Reid on Miracles again. We've seen this before. But you decided to switch it up on us, and you're playing Elves.
Yeah, today I'm playing Elves. Miracles is almost certainly the best deck in Legacy, but it's a tough deck to play for a long tournament. You have the risk of draws, and you have a lot of mirror matches, so it's a grind, and I was just looking for a change of pace, and Elves is a deck that's really fun to play and that I have a little experience with, so that's what I went with today.
Yeah, you've taken down a Legacy Open in the past with this deck before, so you're playing it again. You just want to break for Miracles. Talk about the power of this deck. It hasn't changed a whole lot over the years, but it continues to thrive, you know.
Yeah, now Elves isn't one of the absolute fastest decks in Legacy, but it is extremely powerful and quite consistent as well. The consistency comes from the fact that almost all the cards do the same thing. They're basically all 1 mana creatures, and the power comes from the fact that you can have a 1 mana, 1 card combo piece in Glimpse of Nature, alongside another one card combo piece in Natural Order, either one capable of winning the game on its own if it resolves. And then you have Gaia's Cradle, which is my pick for the most powerful card that's actually legal in Legacy. And
take that, Brainstorm haters.
Yeah, I mean, if you play games with Elves, you find yourself a lot of times going, like, Gaia's Cradle, like, what is going on with this card? Yeah. It's just so insane, you know, a land that can produce 3, 4, 5 mana, doesn't even come into play tapped. With the new Legend rule, you can tap 2 different Cradles in the same turn for a big explosive turn. Just great.
Right. Yeah, when you're sitting across from this deck, when they're playing out the creatures, it's not that big of a threat. But you always know either a Glimpse or a Natural Order turn can just wreck you out of nowhere.
Yeah, sometimes you can even start the turn with no creatures in play and be able to win from scratch like that.
So you have a bunch of the mana Elves, and those go from Llanowar Elves to Heritage Druid, Deathrite Shaman in conjunction with, you know, Wirewood Symbiote and Quirion Rangers can all just generate a ton of mana. And then, of course, you're looking to build up for a giant Craterhoof Behemoth and just kind of trample on over.
Yep, absolutely. And you can also find Craterhoof Behemoth with Natural Order or Green Sun Zenith if you need to.
And Green Sun Zenith is huge in this deck. Obviously allows you to get Dryad Arbor, but you can also just get any of your Elves when you're looking to try to kind of fill the combo.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, which is Dryad Arbor is another card that really makes this deck tick. You can get it on turn 1 with Green Sun Zenith, and you can fetch for it with all of your green fetch lands. And this card is not only a mana creature for the purposes of Gaia's Cradle and all your combos, but also when you have Quirion Ranger and Wirewood Symbiote, you can repeatedly untap the Dryad Arbor. So having a creature land that produces mana just gives you a lot more flexibility, a lot more power.
What's something that kind of goes under the radar when people look at the Elves deck?
Well, one of the most unassuming cards in this deck is Quirion Ranger, and I remember when I first built the deck, I was copying deck lists and I'm like, oh, Quirion Ranger, you know, this card's kind of cool, but maybe it's one of the flexible slots. But really it does a lot more than it seems. You can use it to protect your lands from Wasteland, including the Dryad Arbor, and you can use it to generate bursts of mana as you're comboing off and playing more Elves from your hand by untapping, Dryad Arbor or any Elf when you have Heritage Druid in play. So it almost, in addition to giving you a lot of flexibility when you have a small amount of resources, it can also give you more mana when you're trying to have a big explosive turn.
And you took this deck today because you wanted to kind of have better matchups against the Eldrazi decks. One card that kind of comes into that, although it's good across multiple decks, Cavernous Soul is great against the counter spells, but also Chalice, a card that, you know, the Eldrazi decks are really hinging on to try to beat these 1-drop decks.
Eldrazi is a really good matchup for Elves, and I would say the strength of Elves in general is just being great against creature decks. But an easy way to lose is just if they're on the play and play turn 1 Chalice on 1. So I added 2 Cavernous Souls to my deck to fight against that, and also Counterbalance is another card that's for similar reasons really good against Elves.
Okay. Sideboard has a bunch of discard spells between Therapy and Thoughtseize. You got Abrupt Decays to kind of fight off Counterbalance and things of that nature.
Yeah, so where the main deck is really strong against creature decks, you need your sideboard to help you against the people that are just gold fishing faster than you. So I have a bunch of 1-mana discard spells, I have Mind Break traps, I have a couple permanent pieces of disruption in Pithing Needle and Null Rod, and these are just to try to make sure that my opponent doesn't kill me on turn 2, so
Sure.
I can have time to race.
You're fast,
fight a little fairer,
but not quite as fast as something like Oops All Spells, which is what you did play in round 2.
Which is one of my losses today. Yeah.
All right, well, you can't beat everything in this format, so I think it's important to kind of play what you like and play what you know, and you definitely know this deck and have quite the history with
That's
it.
exactly it, yep.
All right, well, Reid, thanks for joining me here on the sideboard.
Yeah, thanks
Everyone
for
loves
talking
to
with
see
me.
you here on the SCG Tour. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Worcester.